In 1946, the British government decided to build cities from scratch, not expand the ones that existed. Build new ones on empty fields designed from the beginning to be good places to live. Homes with gardens, factories close enough to walk to, schools and parks and shops built in before a single family arrived. 32 new towns were designated across Britain over the next 3 decades. Basildon, Stevenage, Milton Keynes, Cumbernauld, Runcorn. Each one was a statement that the state could plan a better life than the market had ever delivered. Today, several of them rank among the most deprived communities in the country. The buildings are still there, the vision is not. And the question of what went wrong has never been properly answered because the people who made the decisions were gone before the consequences arrived. The post-war housing crisis demanded a radical state-led response. Luftwaffe bombing campaigns and decades of industrial overcrowding left British cities severely damaged and congested. To address this housing shortage and disperse urban populations, Clement Attlee's administration passed the New Towns Act of 1946. This legislation established the Development Corporation, a quasi-public body staffed by planners, engineers and architects, operating under a government-appointed director. These corporations held unprecedented statutory powers to acquire land compulsorily, bypass standard local planning committees, and build entire road networks and utility systems. By design, they could pre-recruit major employers, establishing a local economy before residents arrived. The physical layouts drew from Ebenezer Howard's Garden City principles, which balanced urban life with open countryside, a concept tested earlier at Letchworth and Welwyn. Housing, factories, schools and parks were integrated into a single, planned system. Stevenage became the first designated site in November 1946, with Crawley, Hemel Hempstead and Harlow authorised soon after. These corporations set out to build self-contained, balanced communities, operating with a level of central authority never seen before in peacetime planning. Harlow, designated on March 25, 1947, transformed these planning theories into concrete and mortar. Under the guidance of master planner Frederick Gibbard, the Development Corporation rejected the sprawling layout of old cities, choosing instead to design a human-scaled, modern environment from the ground up. Gibbard structured the town around small, self-contained neighbourhood units. Each unit was built with its own primary school, local shops, and communal green spaces, allowing residents to meet their daily needs within a short walk. The physical layout separated vehicular traffic from footpaths, creating dedicated pedestrian pathways that ran safely through the residential zones. But a successful community required more than houses and footpaths, it required work. To prevent Harlow from becoming a quiet dormitory town for London commuters, the Development Corporation actively recruited employers before the first major wave of residents arrived. Engineering and manufacturing firms, including GEC, Pitney Bowes and Ilford Film, established major operations in the town's dedicated industrial zones. The planning was synchronized so that as new homes were completed, jobs were waiting. By 1973, electrical engineering firms alone employed 36% of the local workforce. This economic base supported a deliberate mixed-tenure model. Council housing, private rentals and owner-occupied homes were built side by side to foster a balanced social mix and prevent economic segregation. When the modern Civic Centre opened in 1956, complete with integrated public art, Harlow stood as concrete proof that state-led planning could deliver a highly functional, humane town where economic purpose and social design worked in harmony. By the mid-1950s, the scale of state planning expanded, pushing new settlements further from existing urban areas and shifting the design focus toward motorized mobility. When Cumbernauld was designated on October 31, 1955, its Development Corporation rejected the neighbourhood unit model in favour of a single, massive concrete megastructure. Under Chief Architect Alistair McIntosh, this layout segregated people from vehicles by routing high-speed traffic directly underneath raised pedestrian walkways, hoping to liberate citizens from the danger of traffic. While this vertical separation won the Saltire Award in 1967, the lived experience was a windswept labyrinth of concrete ramps and walkways that isolated residents from ordinary street-level activity. On January 23, 1967, the designation of Milton Keynes scaled this automobile-focused planning up to accommodate an eventual population of 250,000. Planners laid out a regular grid of major roads spaced approximately 1 kilometre apart, intersecting only at roundabouts to maintain high traffic speeds. This network of vertical V roads and horizontal H roads was built on the assumption of universal car ownership, but it did so by eliminating a centralised historic town centre. Instead, shops and daily services were distributed across isolated neighbourhood cells. This layout altered the social dynamics of the town. By dispersing housing, employment, and retail across vast distances, these second-generation plans weakened the natural gathering points that make a town feel inhabited. Resident surveys would later highlight a lingering gap in shared civic identity as the car-centric design reduced spontaneous public life. The problem was not the modern architecture itself, but a spatial layout that prioritized traffic management over the simple, local interactions that build a shared community. The social balance of these planned communities rested on a large base of publicly owned housing. By the late 1970s, the majority of new town residents rented directly from their development corporations, which managed housing and local employment in parallel. This public structure was fundamentally altered by the Housing Act 1980, which introduced the right to buy. The policy allowed secure tenants to purchase their homes at discounts of up to 50%, with the average discount across England settling at 44%. Because new towns featured newer, larger and more appealing housing stock than older municipal estates, tenant take-up in these areas was remarkably high. This converted public holdings into private assets on a massive scale, reducing the availability of affordable rental options. At the same time, the institutions designed to coordinate the long-term stewardship of these communities were dismantled. Between 1980 and 1996, the government systematically wound up the development corporations. Their remaining land, commercial properties and housing portfolios were transferred to the Commission for New Towns, which sold the assets to housing associations and private developers. The transfer did not replicate the original public housing capacity. Without an equivalent scale affordable replacement, this rapid privatization weakened the mixed tenure model that planners had treated as the core of the new town experiment. This planning logic assumed that housing and local employment would remain permanently tied together. In Corby, this fragile link broke in 1980 when British Steel closed its massive steelworks. The shutdown immediately made over 10,000 workers redundant, pushing the town's male unemployment rate past 30%. It was a sudden, devastating blow to local spending, identity, and civic confidence. The physical town, designed for routine shifts and local shopping, was left without the economic current needed to sustain it. 4 decades later, persistent deprivation in housing and health shows how difficult it is for a planned community to recover when its single dominant industry disappears. Today, Basildon's child poverty rates sit above the national average, with some neighbourhoods ranking among the most deprived 30% in England. In Cumbernauld, public sentiment has turned decisively against its concrete core, and over 3/4 of residents oppose preserving the iconic brutalist megastructure, paving the way for its partial demolition. Conversely, Milton Keynes thrives as a high-wage tech hub generating £16 billion in economic output, yet its dispersed layout leaves its civic identity unresolved. The physical structures of the new towns endured, but the cohesive mixed-income communities they were built to foster have largely thinned out. If this story interested you, there is a video right here about what happened to the British Council estate. Subscribe to stay updated on the history of Britain's built environment. Today, as Britain struggles to build, the unfinished dream of the planned community remains a haunting blueprint. If this story interested you, there is a video right here about what happened to the British Council estate. Subscribe for more.